Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're a government contractor, especially one in the defense industrial base, and you're maybe based in that really competitive Virginia corridor,
Yeah.
that date, December 2025, it's not just another month on the calendar. It's basically an alarm bell going off.
It's more than an alarm bell. It's an operational mandate. And look, the urgency here, I just can't overstate it. This isn't the time to be thinking about next year's budget or, some theoretical planning.
Right.
The rules are set. The solicitations with these new requirements are already out there. And your ability to win a contract in 2026 depends entirely on what you do, well, right now.
Exactly. December 2025 is that convergence point, It's when all this talk about CMMC, the cybersecurity maturity model certification, it suddenly stops being academic and becomes a hard contractual requirement.
And if you can't check that box on the RFP, you're out. You're just disqualified.
So our mission today is to cut through all that complexity because CMMC 2.0 is a mountain of it, and just deliver the urgent priorities. We're going to decode the regulations, get into the real costs, and pinpoint the most common technical failures we see.
And this is all driven by the fact that the final CMMC DFARS acquisition rule is now in effect. I mean, the window for taking your time with this, it's slammed shut. This is critical for business survival.
And as we get into all this, we really want to thank our sponsors for making this whole process a bit more manageable for everyone in the DIB. So a big thank you to www.cmmcnist.tools and www.compliancehub.wiki.
They're fantastic resources.
Oh, absolutely. If you're in the weeds with documentation or trying to figure out the scope of your assessment, those sites are, they're essential. Okay, so let's unpack this whole regulatory crucible. We hear all the acronyms, CMMC, CUI, NIST 800-171. For someone trying to explain this to their leadership team, the non-technical folks, what is CMMC at its core? Why did the DoD even create this?
Fundamentally, CMMC is about verification. For, almost a decade, the DoD just had to trust the contractors were doing what they said they were doing. They'd self-attest that they were compliant. But the problem was breaches kept happening. And investigations showed, time and time again, that companies were claiming compliance when they had, frankly, dangerous security gaps.
So CMMC is basically the DoD saying, we don't trust you to grade your own homework anymore.
That is the perfect analogy. Precisely. CMMC 2.0 is there to enforce accountability for protecting two key types of data: federal contract information, or FCI, and the much more sensitive controlled unclassified information, CUI.
And that difference between FCI and CUI, that's really the heart of the whole cost and complexity conversation, isn't it?
It's everything. Absolutely everything. FCI is, it's basically non-public info related to a contract. Stuff that shouldn't be out there, but it's not top secret. CUI, though, that's the big one. That's information that the government says needs safeguarding. Think technical drawings, program specs, test results. Anything with that CUI marking. The second CUI touches your network, the game completely changes.
Which makes understanding the CMMC 2.0 levels so critical. Let's break down the 3 official levels, because that's what determines your cost and, really, your effort.
Absolutely. So it's streamlined now into 3 levels. The starting point is Level 1 foundational. This is what you need if you only handle FCI. It's just a handful of basic security controls.
How many?
Only 15. 15 basic safeguards, and they come right out of an older FAR clause. It's basic cyber hygiene.
And how do you prove you've done it? What's the verification for Level 1?
That's the easy part. It's an annual self-assessment. The contractor does it themselves, documents it, affirms it, and just submits their score to the government.
Okay, but Level 2, that's where most of the DID is going to land, and that's where the real work and the real money comes in.
That's right. Level 2 advanced is the big one. It's for protecting CUI. If you process, store, or transmit CUI, you're almost certainly going to need Level 2. And this means you have to meet all 110 security requirements from NIST Special Publication 800-171.
And this is a key point, right? CMMC 2.0 Level 2 isn't inventing 110 new things to do.
Yep.
It's taking the existing NIST controls that people should have been doing for years.
Correct.
And just adding that formal verification layer on top.
That's it, exactly. The 110 controls from NIST are the bedrock. CMMC just adds the assessment piece. And for Level 2, that can go one of 2 ways. For some contracts, a self-assessment might be okay. But for the more critical ones,
The high-value ones,
you'll need a full triennial certification assessment done by a C3PAO, a CMMC third-party assessment organization. That's the formal audit everyone is preparing for.
And then there's Level 3, the top tier.
Level 3, expert. This is for the really sensitive stuff. High-value programs, advanced weapon systems, it's the 110 NIST controls plus another 24 enhanced controls from a different NIST publication, 800-172. It's all about defending against, state-sponsored hackers, the APTs.
Okay, so let's talk timeline. The rule is effective, but it's a phased rollout. What does that look like right now as we're heading into 2026?
The rollout is phased over 4 years, which gives everyone time to scale up. We are now officially in Phase 1, which started November 10, 2025, and it runs through November 9, 2026.
So what are contractors seeing in their RFPs during this phase 1? What's actually different today?
The biggest change is that contracting officers can now, officially, put CMMC requirements in new contracts. You'll see a specific DFARS clause, 252.2047025. When you see that, you have to stop and check what CMMC level is required.
So even if it's not in every single contract yet,
Right.
the ones that do have it are probably the bigger, more important ones. And if you're not ready, you can't even bid.
You're non-responsive. Your proposal is dead on arrival. You absolutely cannot wait for the full implementation, which is way out in 2028. If you want that DoD revenue next year, you have to be ready right now.
And before we move on to the money, we have to talk about the subcontractor flowdown. This feels like a huge blind spot for a lot of prime contractors.
Oh, it's a massive blind spot, and it's non-negotiable. The CMMC requirements flow down to every single subcontractor in the chain. If your sub handles CUI for you, they have to meet the exact same CMMC level you do.
And the prime is responsible for checking that.
The prime is responsible for the due diligence. You need proof, you need evidence that your subs are compliant, because if they aren't, you could lose your own certification. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
Okay, let's talk about the money. Because looking at the data, the cost for CMMC Level 2 is, it's all over the place. Anywhere from $5,000 to over $300,000. That's a huge financial swing, isn't it?
It's an enormous range, and it's driven by two big things. First, obviously, which level you need. But second, and this is the big one, it's your starting point. Your existing security posture and, how complex your network is.
Right.
If you're a small 15-person shop that's been on top of NIST for years, your costs are low. It's mostly just assessment fees.
Yeah.
But if you're a mid-sized company with old tech and a messy network, you're going to be on that high end. You have a ton of remediation to do.
So for our listeners aiming for Level 2, that $63,000 to $200,000 range, what are the big cost buckets they should be budgeting for right now?
You can really break it into three main non-recurring buckets.
Yeah.
First is remediation. This is fixing your gaps. It could be anywhere from $20,000 to $150,000 for things like new EDR or SIEM tools.
Okay.
Second is documentation. The SSP, the POA&M, all the policies, that's super labor intensive. Figure $12,000 to $70,000. And third, the actual assessment fees you pay the C3PAO. There's usually between $30,000 and $75,000.
And that's not even counting the ongoing costs. You mentioned 6 key budget categories to look at.
Right. For a full plan, you need a budget for 1, the initial gap assessment, 2, your strategic planning, 3, the new tools and technologies, 4, that documentation work, 5, the implementation labor, either your people or an MSP, and 6, the continuous monitoring to stay compliant.
So we've laid out the costs. Now the most important part, how to control them. You called scope containment the secret weapon. This seems to be where companies make their biggest financial mistake.
It's the single most common and financially catastrophic error we see. I mean it. Companies just let CUI spread everywhere. It's on laptops in the marketing department. It's on HR servers. It's on general file shares.
And when the auditor shows up?
When the auditor shows up, they have to apply all 110 of those strict controls to every single system that CUI has touched. And your costs, your documentation, your assessment time, it all just explodes exponentially.
So the answer has to be CUI enclaving. But what does that actually look like in practice? How do you do it?
CUI enclaving is all about building a fence around your CUI. You limit it to the absolute minimum number of systems and people necessary. And you do it with basic networking and system tools.
Like what, for example?
For example, network segmentation. You use VLAN's virtual local area networks to create a separate, isolated part of your network just for CUI. It's a digital fence. Second, you use restrictive group policy objects, or GPOs, to lock down only the machines inside that enclave.
So you're creating a small, highly defended fortress inside your bigger corporate network, and the assessor only has to audit the fortress.
That's the perfect way to think about it.
Okay.
Exactly. And the third way is using a dedicated cloud environment, like GCC High from Microsoft. You move all your CUI into that pre-built fortress in the cloud, and the scope of your own on-premise network shrinks dramatically.
And the savings are significant.
A well-done enclave can cut your total cost by 20 to 40%. I mean, a guaranteed way to save money. The smaller your scope, the lower your bill.
That is critical advice. Now let's talk about the Virginia DIB corridor. Lots of small and mid-sized firms there facing these costs. Where can they look for financial help right now in December?
They need to tap into local resources immediately. For money, the first call should be to the Virginia Small Business Financing Authority, or VSBFA. They have loans, credit enhancements, even grants that can help contractors meet these kinds of mandates.
But the key is to talk to them before you spend the money, right?
Oh, absolutely. You have to engage them before you buy the new servers or sign that big software contract. They can help you structure the financing so your cash flow can handle the investment.
And what about getting expert advice for free or at a low cost?
At the same time, you have to be talking to the Virginia Apex Accelerators. They used to be called PTACs. They provide no-cost, expert counseling for government contractors. They'll help you optimize your remediation plan so you're not wasting money on things you don't need.
All right, we've covered the rules and the money. Now let's get into the technical weeds of why companies actually fail these audits. It's often not about ignoring a control, but about misunderstanding just how deep it goes.
That's exactly it. We're going to focus on 3 control families: IA for identification, MP for media protection, and SC for system protection. This is where people think they have a solution, but it only solves half the problem.
Okay, let's start with pain point number 1, identification and authentication. Specifically, IA.L2-3.5.3, which is the multi-factor authentication, or MFA requirement. I mean, MFA is everywhere now. How is this still a major failure point?
It fails because of scope. Always scope. Everyone understands MFA for logging in from the outside.
Yeah.
They secure the VPN, their cloud email, the front door.
Ooh, the auditor looks past the front door.
The auditor walks right inside the house. The control, IA.L2 3.5.3, requires MFA for 2 things, and companies always miss the first one. First, it's for local A&D network access to privileged accounts, and second, it's for network access to non-privileged accounts.
Let's focus on that first one, local privileged access. That sounds like the classic tripwire.
It is. I've seen it sync audits. The assessor will literally walk into your server room and say to your IT admin, okay, log into this server console right here, or start an RDP session to that server from your desk over there.
And if that login doesn't prompt for MFA?
If it just asks for a password because the MFA solution only triggers for external connections, that's an instant not met. The control has failed because a privileged account is privileged whether you're standing next to the machine or 1,000 miles away.
So the fix is having a system that enforces MFA for your admins no matter how they log in.
Correct. You need a dedicated privileged account for your admins, and that account must require MFA for every single login, RDP, SSH, physical console, everything. It's a technical solution, but it's also a big procedural change.
Okay, let's move on to the next big failure area, which is all about cryptography. Data at rest, SC.L 2.13.16. We all know we need encryption, but what's the specific technical detail that fails people?
It's not about just having encryption. It's about having validated encryption.
Yeah.
The requirement says you must use FIPS 140-2 or FIPS 140-3 validated cryptographic modules.
So it's not enough to just use a product that says it uses AES encryption?
No. The actual software or hardware component doing the encryption has to be officially validated by NIST. It has to be on their list.
That's a huge distinction, and I've heard a lot of companies buy FIPS-capable tech, but they never actually turn on FIPS mode. How do you prove to an auditor that you're running it correctly?
You have to verify it. In Windows, for example, there's a specific security setting you have to enable to put the system into SIPS mode. The assessor will check the registry for that setting. You need the vendor's documentation with the FIPS certificate number, and you need to show your configuration matches what's on that certificate.
And that FIPS requirement applies to everything, right? Even backup drives.
Everything that stores CUI. And that ties right into media protection, MPL 2-3.8.6, which says you have to use full disk encryption on any mobile or removable device with CUI. If you lose a USB stick, the auditor is going to ask, was that encrypted with a FIPS-validated module in FIPS mode? If not, it's a fail.
Okay, so that's data at rest. What about data in transit, SCL 2-3.13.8?
For data in transit, you have to use strong cryptography for all network communications. That means using TLS 1.2 or higher for everything, and if you have remote users, they must be using a VPN that also uses strong FIPS-validated encryption. No exceptions.
Which brings us to the foundation of all of this, key management. SC.LO2-3.13.10. If you fail this, all that money you spent on FIPS-validated tech is basically worthless.
It's the linchpin control. Your crypto keys are the secret. If they get stolen, all your encrypted data is exposed. Your December prep has to include formalizing your entire key lifecycle management process.
So what does a good defensible key management process look like to an auditor?
It needs documented policies and technical controls covering 4 stages: generation, storage, rotation, and revocation.
Can you break those down?
Sure. Generation. Are you creating keys with approved algorithms? Storage. Are you storing them securely, separate from the data, maybe in a hardware security module and HSM rotation? Do you have a policy to change your keys regularly? And revocation. Do you have a tested plan to destroy a key immediately if you think it's been compromised?
So the auditor isn't just checking a box for encryption. They're testing your entire process for keeping those keys secret over time.
Exactly. Encryption without key management is just security theater. They will read your policy, and then they will interview the person responsible to make sure it's actually happening.
So all this technical work leads us to what feels like the final boss, the documentation. You can have the best tech in the world, but if your paperwork is a mess, you're going to fail the audit.
You will. The documentation package is the primary thing the assessor reviews. It's the narrative of your compliance. Your SSP and your POA&M, they had to be detailed, backed by evidence, and tell a cohesive story that actually matches what's on your network.
Let's talk about the System Security Plan, the SSP. What are auditors looking for in there beyond just a checklist of controls?
The SSP is your blueprint. It has to clearly define the boundary of your CUI environment. It needs architecture diagrams, a full inventory of devices and scope, and for every single one of the 110 controls, it has to say how you implement it.
So for that MFA control?
For MFA, it has to name the specific product you use and reference the company policy that requires its use for local privileged access. It has to be that specific.
And writing an SSP like that from scratch sounds like a full-time job.
It's a massive time sink. I mean, we're talking 50 to 200 hours of work, easily. And it's so easy to make mistakes. This is where tools become a necessity. Using templates or automation is critical, which is why resources like www.cmmcnist.tools and www.compliancehub.wiki are so valuable. They save you from reinventing the wheel.
Then there's the plan of action and milestones, the POA&M. That's for the gaps you haven't closed yet. How has CMMC changed the rules for POA&Ms?
CMMC got very, very strict with POA&Ms. In the old days, you could have a huge POA&M and still pass. Not anymore.
So what are the new rules?
For a CMMC Level 2 assessment, you can only have a few low-risk items on your POA&M. And here's the kicker. You have a hard deadline of 180 days from the assessment date to close them.
Wow, 180 days.
A very short countdown. If you don't fix those gaps in 180 days, your conditional status is gone and you could lose the contract. So the goal now is to close your gaps, not just document them.
Okay, moving from paper to people, let's talk about staff readiness validation. This is where the human element can fail the whole system.
This is the surprise failure for so many companies. They buy the best tools, write beautiful policies, but the people haven't been trained. The C3PAO auditor will conduct interviews with regular employees to see if the policies are actually operational.
What's a classic example of a failure there?
The assessor will ask a project manager, okay, you think you just clicked on a phishing link. What's the very next thing you do? And show me the documented procedure for it.
Yeah.
If that employee doesn't know or can't find the procedure, the assessor marks that control as failed. It proves the training isn't working.
Which makes doing a mock assessment absolutely critical before the real one.
It's non-negotiable. You have to do a full dress rehearsal, test the tech and test the people. We find that the organizations who do a formal readiness validation, maybe with an RPO, they have a nearly perfect first pass rate on the real audit. It's that important.
So once you pass, where do the results go? You mentioned SPRS and EMATH.
All right, there are 2 systems. For your Level 1 or Level 2 self-assessments, you upload your score and your affirmation statement into the DoD's Supplier Performance Risk System, or SPRS. You have to do that before you can get a contract award.
And ES.
EMAS is for the big ones. The Level 2 C3PAO audits and the Level 3 government-led assessments. The results go into ESS, which is the government's official system of record for security authorizations.
Finally, let's talk about what happens after the audit. This isn't a one-and-done thing, right? The continuous monitoring requirement is real.
It's a huge operational requirement. Your certification is good for 3 years, but compliance decay is a real risk. We see companies pass the audit and then 18 months later, their security posture has slipped. You have to maintain those 110 controls 24/7, 365, which is why many companies turn to managed service providers.
An MSP or an MDR service to just handle the day-to-day grind.
Exactly. Let them handle the log reviews and patch management so you can be sure you're ready for that recertification audit in 3 years.
And again, to manage all of that documentation, the SSP, POANM, all the evidence, we want to remind everyone that checklists and tools available at sites like www.cmmcnist.tools and www.compliancehub.wiki can really help simplify that whole process. So we've established that getting to level 2 is a huge undertaking. I mean, trying to do it all on your own, especially if you're a small or mid-sized business, seems incredibly risky. Let's talk about the support system that's out there.
The good news is there is a very robust support system,
Yeah.
especially for contractors in the Virginia DIB. There are tons of authorized C3PAOs, the auditors and RPOs, the readiness consultants, who are based right there in the Richmond, Arlington, and DMV areas.
And what's the advantage of using a local partner instead of some big national firm?
I think local partners just have a better feel for the local DIB culture. They know the contracting offices. They know the specific expectations in the DMV. They've seen how other companies just like yours in the area have gotten through this, and that experience is invaluable.
So just to be clear on the roles, the RPO is your coach.
Yeah.
They help you get ready. And the C3PAO is the referee who does the official audit.
Exactly. An RPO can't do your audit. There has to be that independence. But hiring an RPO is often the smartest money you can spend because they'll make sure you're actually ready before the C3PAO shows up.
And for companies that just don't have the staff to handle the ongoing work, the value of a managed service provider, an MSP or an MSSP, seems really clear in this context.
Oh, absolutely. Engaging an MSSP basically turns compliance from this giant, risky project into a predictable monthly operational expense. They handle the 24/7 monitoring, the threat detection, the log reviews. They take that massive operational burden off your shoulders.
And a lot of them are CMMC certified themselves, which helps.
It's a huge plus. It means they know exactly what the auditor is looking for because they've been through it themselves.
Okay, so besides paying for consultants, are there any good free resources that companies can use to get started?
There are. The DoD's DIB cybersecurity program offers some no-cost services, things like threat intelligence and other tools. And the Defense Acquisition University, or DAU, has a lot of free online training for CMMC and general cybersecurity. Using those free resources now is a great way to get your team educated.
So the message is pretty clear. You need partners, but the clock is ticking on actually hiring them.
It is. The demand for good C3PAOs and RPOs in the Virginia DIB is through the roof right now. If you want to get an assessment scheduled for the first half of 2026, you need to be signing that contract in December. If you wait, you're going to be at the back of a very long line. #tag outro.
We have covered a ton of ground today. We've gone through the regulations, the money, the technical details. As we wrap up this deep dive, let's distill it down. What are the 2 most critical actions a DIB contractor needs to take, like right now?
Okay, 2 things. First, strictly segment your CUI environment. Build that enclave. Use VLANs. Use GPOs. This is the single best thing you can do to control your costs and complexity. It will shrink your assessment scope, period.
And second,
secure your partners now. Whether it's the RPO to help you prepare or the C3PAO to do the audit, get them under contract in December. You need to lock in that schedule for 2026 before it fills up.
and the stakes are high. If you're not ready, you're just going to be locked out of some of the best contracts next year.
You'll be on the sidelines watching your competitors win. Compliance is now just a basic requirement of doing business with the DoD.
So let's quickly review those key technical takeaways, the little nuggets that can make or break an audit. First, that comprehensive MFA, not just at the front door, but for all privileged access, including local logins.
Second, make sure all your encryption uses FIPS-validated modules, not just FIPS-capable ones, and that they're actually configured to run in FIPS mode. You have to be able to prove it.
And third,
you have to have robust key management, a documented process for creating, storing, rotating, and destroying your encryption keys. If your key management is weak, your encryption is worthless.
and to help manage all of these moving pieces, we want to thank our sponsors one last time. www.cmmcnist.tools and www.compliancehub.wiki. They have the structured resources to help you organize all this data.
And I'll leave you with one final thought, and it's a serious one. The CMMC process ends with you making a formal legal affirmation to the U.S. government that you are compliant.
Uh-huh.
If you misrepresent your status, if you lie on that paperwork to win a contract, you could face criminal prosecution under the False Claims Act. This isn't just a technical checklist anymore. If you lie, you could face massive fines or even jail time.
Wow.
Compliance is now a legal and a fiduciary responsibility. It's that serious.
It's the ultimate measure of trust. And in the defense industrial base, that trust is measured in contracts, in security, and now it's measured in law. Be ready.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll talk to you next time.